Hello.
Oh, sorry. We're on Discord. One moment. We're on Discord. Uh, we're on Discord. Wait. Okay. I'm back. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. Sorry. I entered the call on the laptop, and that's not good. How are you?
No, I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm a mixed bag, you could say.
Yeah.
Let me see. There's one more thing that I need to. Hello. Wait, is this hello from now or is this hello from yesterday? It's hard for me to say. We'll see how many people will tune in for today's events. I will. Mm, from today. Okay. We have at least one person watching. Would you like to be on camera?
No. No.
So you'd rather just be a voice? Yes?
I'd rather just be a voice, yeah.
Alright. Should I display your name on the screen?
Yeah. 1 second. 1 second. Yes, but give me 1 second. Edit profile. Edit server profile. Bam. There we go. That's fixed.
What's fixed?
You can display my name if you want.
One moment. I will see what I can do. Mm, Envy?
Yes. It's
Okay.
me.
Your name is Envy.
Yep.
Okay. One moment. Do you have any specific pronouns that you like to go by, or
She, her, please.
okay? Mm-hmm. I will oblige with great pleasure. Have you had the opportunity, perhaps, to see the Zelensky Lex Fridman interview?
No, I have not. I probably won't be able to stay pretty long.
I
I don't know
understand.
how. Well, I guess I don't know how long I'll be able to stay.
Oh,
Um,
you have
Probably like 30 minutes. 30 minutes. I might be able to stay longer, but
prior
um,
obligations.
uh, potentially, yeah.
I understand.
Um, Depending on how my partner is doing in the next bit, I might have to. I'll probably have to be with her for a bit because, yeah.
I understand. So, they are here today to talk to me about the topic of mental health.
Yes, yes, that is why.
All right. Can you tell me a bit about your background in the subject or interest in the subject? What made you want to delve into it and, well, everything?
Um, uh, okay. Um, I'm from Florida. Um, I guess that's the biggest bit of background. Um, and Florida's mental health law is particularly bad in America. Um, it's I'll get into it later. But since I was 12, um, I had gotten what's in Florida the mental health law is called a Baker Act, well, which means you could be involuntarily held due to because of suspected mental illness or because they deem you have a mental illness. For 72 hours, they usually hold you longer. And yeah, and it's really bad. It's really bad in Florida, and that's why.
Is this a form of
Shit
sexism?
sucks. Yes, yes, yes.
All right. I'm listening.
Um, and that's, I guess that's the big thing. I don't have any expertise besides. I don't have any background besides that in this. That's why I did it. That's why I got interested in it.
All right. Can you tell me about your journey into the realm of mental health? Can you tell me? I already know what got you started. I assume that you already told me that since the age of, was it 12?
Yep.
You've been subject of this law, and that
Yep.
spurred you on your fast tracked you on your journey. So can you tell me a bit about it?
Uh, yes. Sorry. About my journey or about the law?
Ideally, both. First about the law, and then about the journey that it basically put you on when it comes to uh, exploring mental health.
Okay. Um, well, the law is quite simple. It's quite straightforward. Um, if you are deemed to be a threat to yourself or others, in some way, a threat to yourself can also include simply not being able to take care of yourself, and you are deemed or suspected of having mental illness, um, you can get Baker acted. Um, and something very interesting about that is if you want to kill someone or I guess kill yourself, maybe you don't have mental illness, then you cannot get Baker acted. Um, this would exclude typically probably stuff like medical conditions that cause certain things. It'd probably be pretty specific what it is. I know that can be a excluding factor in other states, and I assume that's the case in mine.
All right, and that by law is supposed to.
That yes, that is the this is the sorry, I should there's a bit more to it, but that is the letter of the law. I'm not giving you the extra bits right now. I am just giving you what the law is, like what it just says,
So
not like how it's actually
detention,
enforced.
this detention is supposed to last for 72 hours.
At least 72 hours. You can be held longer though.
What happens
Um,
during those?
you
What happens during that time? What is the procedure
um,
for those?
you are sent to a psychiatric hospital. Though in Florida they're usually called crisis centers or behavioral health centers. And
Mm-hmm.
you are supposed to be evaluated by a doctor. Is basically it. And then after the doctor says you're good to go, you can go home. You're usually prescribed medication of some kind, um, and also potentially given a diagnosis of some kind.
All right, and you say that this whole process is dysfunctional.
Yes, it's very dysfunctional.
All right, can you tell me a bit more about that? About the
Sure.
dysfunctionality of the system.
Um, so Florida is uniquely bad, and it's also kind of especially bad.
Mm-hmm.
There's laws similar to this in, I think, every state. This isn't something. It's just called the Baker Act in Florida. Is all. Um, um, but um, Florida ranks first among Baker Acts, and it doesn't just rank first. That's not the thing of note. The second place, if I remember correctly, is half of what Florida's is. The second, Florida is double the second place Baker Acts are. Recently, there has been cases of because you can have this happen to you when you're a child. In Palm Beach County,
Mm-hmm.
sorry, Palm Beach School District, um, uh, a school district was recently sued and was found like like guilty, I guess. I don't know. There's probably some actual legal term,
Mm-hmm.
but was found guilty of overusing the Baker Acts. And before all the policies, before like the case was officially over, and the decision was actually made of what policies the school needed to change. The school did change some policies, and they reported after these changes in policies an 80% reduction in Baker Acts. It's 80%. That is an insane number.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, it's a lot of Baker Acts. It means that only 1 in 5 Baker Acts were going up based off that. About 1 in 5 Baker Acts were only valid legally, and the rest were not really that valid legally. There's a lot of stuff like that. A lot of stuff. Um, it is something that is severely overused.
So, if some of these cases are not legally sound, are there any legal means to appeal to seek justice for something that has been de facto done illegally?
Um, it's not that okay. A lot of the issues aren't that it's not necessarily legally sound. In that one specific case, it wasn't legally sound. Um, the issue is there is a lot of things you can do besides Baker acting that Florida just doesn't do. It's why we have the highest. But experts in Florida later, I can probably I gotta find the papers. I don't have them on hand, but I could probably find them really easily from searching for my history. I should have probably saved them. I actually might have. I should probably check that real quick.
Mm-hmm.
But experts, there's a lot of things that people can do. It's always have been considered. It's been considered overused for a really long time. And there's other things you can do. There was this thing called like it was like mobile crisis care or something like that. That's what it was
Yes.
called. Um, and basically, what it was is if you I assume were thinking about attempting suicide or were eligible for the Baker Act, but you didn't do anything violent or didn't try to kill yourself, uh, this a team of people would come out to you. And during the time of the study, which some of these are a year or two back, sometimes 3 or 4, they're still pretty recent, all of them. But um, so there might be more of this, but
Mm-hmm.
this was implemented in 2 counties, and I believe it saw a 70% reduction in Baker Acts in, I think, both of the counties. It
Okay.
was crazy. It's pretty crazy.
Um,
A lot of stuff.
is it
A
alright for
lot of
me?
big numbers.
Is it alright for me to ask how many times has that happened to you?
16.
16. In
Yes.
a condensed period of time or over the years?
Over the years.
I understand. Alright. Well, then tell me how you went from experiencing that to taking an interest in the field of mental health and about your exploration process, I assume through the years.
Um, when I realized pretty early on I wasn't going to get help. Um, when kids are almost certainly particularly vulnerable when put in these systems uh, because you already don't have rights when you're a kid in most places,
Mm-hmm.
and you being detained for a while under supervision, deemed mentally ill, a danger to yourself, and kind of by that also kind of a bit irrational. You don't get a lot of say,
Mm-hmm.
um, and stuff would happen. I would have horrible side effects from medication, um,
What sort of medication were
and
you given?
um, usually antipsychotics. Um, that was usually what it was. Sometimes antidepressants, but antidepressants that usually work.
And you were
Um,
given those from the age of 12?
yes, yes.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell me about these
Um,
effects that you have mentioned just now?
okay. Uh, I was on lithium from when I was it when I was 13 to when I was 14? It was 13 to 14 basically.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and lithium had the strange and horrible effect of making me very suicidal. Um, I I experienced mood swings. It was one of the things I experienced. Um, and because of this, they thought I was bipolar.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not bipolar. Uh, People don't think that. Doctors don't think that anymore. But doctors and doctors don't think that anymore. Um,
Sorry, doctors don't do what?
Doctors don't think I'm bipolar anymore. They
I
were
see.
wrong when I was a kid. And when I took lithium, I got extremely depressed to the point where I was going to kill my like I was if I didn't stop taking it, I probably would have tried to kill myself. And I realized this, and I told doctors, and they just kind of didn't listen to me. They didn't really care, and I had to go cold turkey off of lithium. And I was 14, and you weren't supposed to do that. Is basically what it is. I felt kind of horrible um, as the days passed. I ended up taking it a few times after because just the side effects from withdrawal were just so bad that I had to take some. Otherwise, I thought I might have actually had to been hospitalized. I didn't know if I would, but I was getting really bad. It was not very good. And so I stopped taking it. Um, and um, yeah, there was that. Um, I get, I just get really weird side effects in general. It either doesn't work or gives me really weird side effects. Like I got something called akathisia. Um, I don't know if you know what that is. Akathisia is basically, um, you know how have you ever felt restless?
No.
Okay.
Oh, have I
Uh,
ever felt restless?
yes.
Um, well, it always takes me a long time to fall asleep,
Um, so
no matter what.
akathisia is a thing that basically, if you don't move, you kind of feel like this big sense of dread and anxiety. Um, Everything it sucks not to move. You always want to move. You can't kind of not move. It's really hard not to. But not just moving like a bit of your body. You want to move your entire body, and stopping doing that feels actually miserable. It feels horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And I had stuff like that. Just a lot of random stuff like that.
And there was a side effect of the medication,
Yes, yes, yes.
so you could not sit
Um,
down, lie down.
no, no. I already had trouble sleeping. That made it worse during the time we took it.
And did those things go away once you went off the medication?
Yeah, I think at this time, I think at the time I started that, I had a doctor that was actually, I believe that's when I had the only psychiatrist that I actually kind of that actually ever listened to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe once I told her, she told me to stop it. But that wasn't the case before. And doctors would listen to me generally when medication wouldn't work, when it would make me worse, um, when it would just stuff like that.
Has there ever been a type of medication that you felt helped you in any way?
No, um, no, at least not with these issues. I uh, Before my insurance ran out, I used to take ADHD medication, and that worked. But no, besides that, for my issues, nothing has ever really worked.
Nothing has
No
ever worked.
medication, at least.
You mentioned being misdiagnosed as a child. Have you received
Yes,
perhaps a newer, more accurate diagnosis since then?
um, I'm not technically diagnosed with it. Um, but I probably would have been if I was older. But because I was underage, I wasn't. Um, uh, my psychiatrist, and recently I was in the mental health facility for a bit, and as an adult,
Mm-hmm.
and so my psychiatrist thought I probably had BPD, but she didn't want to diagnose it with me. Uh, diagnose me with it yet, because I wasn't 18.
BPD.
And she thought that yes, borderline personality disorder.
Can you talk to me a bit about it?
Sure. Do you want to know the symptoms?
Well, just a quick overview of the condition and its symptoms. Yes.
Okay. To be diagnosed with BPD, you need to meet 5 out of these 9 criteria. Um, uh, fear of fear of imagined or real abandonment. Um, uh, uh, extreme mood swings. But the differences between bipolar is the mood swings don't usually last more than a few hours to maybe a day max. They're very short lived, is I guess basically, but very extreme. Explosive anger uh, um, is one of the things. Um, Self harm, harm to yourself, and at least self damaging behaviors in at least 2 areas that do not include physical self harm, like actual cutting yourself or something like that. Um, uh,
So it has to be physical
um,
self harm. Yes.
it can be, but it's also stuff that isn't physical, but that's considered separate.
For example.
I believe it's uh, gambling, risky sex. It'd be stuff like that. Reckless driving, for example, driving drunk. Um, um, Substance abuse might
Risky sex.
count just generally. Yes, like having unprotected sex or like doing something like that. This probably would it be. Well, not sorry. Um,
Hmm?
I don't know how to define that. Um, I know what it is, but I don't know how to say it, put it into words.
Yes.
But you can think of basically just stuff like gambling and
Mm-hmm.
like stuff like that. Not
Understand.
sorry, gambling as in like gambling a lot. Shopping sprees would also probably be one.
I understand.
Being uh, poor financial management, I assume would probably be it. Because I assume it's the same
Yes.
for that and what, because that's phrased the same way as other stuff. Um,
And
Chronic feelings of emptiness. Um, um, Unstable interpersonal relationships and transient stress related paranoia or dissociation.
dissociation.
Yes, or paranoia. But it has to be stress, but it's stress related, is what it is.
What sort of dissociation?
Uh, I assume it include all forms.
Can you describe
Just
them?
Yeah. There's I assume it'd be mainly referring to stuff like depersonalization and derealization. Um,
Can you describe those things in more detail?
yes. So depersonalization, to put it simply, is feeling like yourself isn't real. Is I guess the simplest way to put it. And derealization is feeling like your surroundings aren't real, things around you. Um, it's this feeling as if something's just not right, either with you or with the world. Is I guess the best way to put it. The simplest way to put it.
And you experience these symptoms, or at least some of them?
Yes, yes.
Is it alright for me to ask which ones?
Um, I meet the criteria. I think for um 8 out of the 9. The only one I don't really fit is the one where it's just like risky behaviors, I guess is the best way to simplify it down. I don't really have that. It's not really something I've ever had. It's not really ever done. But I get horrible mood swings.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, I don't have very good relationships. Not really say used to. Not have very good relationships. I still struggle with
As
certain things, but
in all sorts of relationship, friendships with family,
yes, yes,
romance.
yes, yeah. It's all of that. Um, um, I get afraid people are going to leave me. Um, Deeply afraid. Uh, it's not really good. It's something I end up fixating on. Sometimes I'm a little bit better now, but um, it's like that. Did I say mood swings already? I might have. Uh, I experienced the breath-related paranoia.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a fun one. Very not a fun one.
Mm-hmm.
The chronic feelings of emptiness. Um,
Can
the
you
explosive anger I don't experience as much, but I do experience that. It's very hard to get me angry, but when I do, it's pretty bad.
I
Um,
understand? Can you tell me a bit about the feeling of emptiness?
uh, sure. Um, it just kind of feels like nothing's going on inside of you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, to say it feels bad, kind of wrong, because it doesn't really feel bad. It just doesn't feel like anything. Just nothing's going on. You don't really care about stuff. If you do things, you just do them because you might as well, because you want to pass the time.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, nothing really goes on with you. Um, Stuff like that. That's basically
And
it.
what about that feeling of abandonment? How does that
Um,
affect your interpersonal life?
um, you get these feelings randomly that people are just gonna leave you, that they're just gonna leave you or they hate you, maybe even
Hate
stuff
you.
like that. And it's not very, not usually very rational. Sometimes it's based off stuff, um,
What sort of stuff?
but just stuff that happens. It can be minor stuff. It can be anything. It doesn't really. Um, it's kind of extreme in that way. It can be something just seemingly small that otherwise, for most people, you wouldn't really register, but just
Would you be able
sometimes.
to give me an example of such a thing that seems minor but feels big to you?
Um, uh, I had this friend,
Mm-hmm.
and and um, they had stopped talking to me
Ah,
for a few days, and
yes.
and after I started talking to them again, I got this feeling that this feeling started to build. They hated me, and I thought they hated me, and I thought they didn't like me, and I thought they were just gonna leave me and abandon me, and that kind of caused me to spiral that day. And this was kind of that happened quite a lot in my life. Not very fun. Luckily, a lot of that was when I was a lot of the more extreme stuff was when I was a bit younger. Probably not helped by the fact that I didn't sleep that much. Um, I've always had a hard time sleeping. I'm a bit better now,
So it has become better.
but it has become, yeah, things are getting better. Things aren't okay or fixed entirely, but they're better.
So I assume that the interpersonal relationships problem has also gotten better.
Yes, yes.
So you're able to have and maintain relationships.
Uh, yeah.
Okay. Tell me a bit about your. I I would assume that you've done some study on the subject on your own.
On
Mental health.
BPD
Mental health
or
in general.
um, kind of. Um, Mostly looking into stuff like the Baker Act and stuff like that.
Can
Um,
you tell me all about it?
um, sure. Uh, sure. Let's see. What do I want to talk about? Where do I want to start? Um, I guess where do I start? I already told you about the school district thing. Told you about a few things. Um, okay, I guess we can just talk more generally.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and not specifically about the Baker Act. Um, so I took an interest in stuff surrounding institutionalization. I'm not a big fan of it. Um, I think, especially in Florida, it's probably overdone to some degree. Obviously, probably varying depending on the area. Um, I don't think institutionalization is a very good thing. I don't think it can be a good thing unless you're going in there for extreme periods of time. Sorry, for long periods of time, not extreme. For long periods of time. Um, because for one, most medication um, doesn't work right away. Not how most medication works.
Right.
Usually takes a bit.
Usually
Um,
you have to take
and so,
it for some time, maybe even increase the dose, and
yeah.
there's observation
And,
involved.
and also, you're not guaranteed the first medication they put you on to be the right one.
Yes.
And most of the, um, unless you are like by law institutionalized, like because you committed a crime or something, and you are deemed to that, you usually don't stay um, longer than a week, 2 weeks max, which isn't enough to determine even whether or not you're on the right medication. It just isn't enough time.
Yes.
It doesn't help. It doesn't necessarily help.
Do
And
you, do you have a personal
uh,
assigned psychiatrist or psychologist during your hospitalization?
it is of varying qualities, but yes, yes. I've only been as an adult once, which was this recent time. One second. Sorry about that.
No problem.
But I am back.
Welcome
Um,
back.
what was I saying? I've only been once as an adult. Um, when I was a kid, so I can inspire speak to the adult side, but I'll speak to the kid side. When I was a kid, um, a lot of the times you were assigned a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist talked to you um, for maybe a few minutes every day. And when I mean a few minutes, it wasn't more than five ever. More than 5 minutes. It was usually one or two, though. It wasn't very long. It wasn't ever very long. It was very short, very quick. One of the places I went, though, you saw the psychiatrist once, and never again. Never saw the psychiatrist ever again. And that was also fairly short. It wasn't. It definitely wasn't enough time to gather any of the information you might need to properly assess somebody. Is I guess the big point of it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
um, and
So, yes.
yes, you are, but it's of varying and not usually good quality. At least when I was a kid. I don't know about the adult side as much, but
And you
as a kid,
said that you've been hospitalized recently as an adult.
yes, yes.
Can I ask
I
what happened?
um some personal stuff got someone that wasn't good for me to be around was around me again, and I ended up spiraling
Mm.
over a period of like a month or two, and
Wasn't
that eventually culminated in me um, having a moment of like kind of like panic, not really thinking, um, taking pills, and then realizing what I did and calling 911 just to make sure that I was okay. I thought I was going to be okay. But I wanted to make sure. I wasn't trying to kill myself. I wasn't sorry, I wasn't planning to kill myself in that moment. Yes, is a better way to say it. But that was what
So it
happened,
was a
and
stress
that's why.
response taking those pills?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I literally, I'm pretty sure I just saw them, grabbed them, opened the bottle, and did it because I didn't realize they did it at first. I was just kind of like, nah, I wasn't really thinking.
Right.
And
And you say it was due to a person that was not good to be around?
yes, yeah,
Negative influence?
yes.
I understand. And has the recent stay helped you in any way?
Uh, no, not. Can't say so. Um,
Nor the psychologist nor the psychiatrist were able to make any progress with what was ailing you?
no, no.
And I they put you on medication then as well?
Yes, they did.
And it was not working and the time was far too short for them to be able to switch it to anything else?
Um, I don't have insurance, so I only actually started. I would have said no to medication because I didn't have insurance, but I thought I would have stayed longer. So I said yes. But the medication they ended up putting me on, I'd already been on before. It didn't work.
Hmm.
And they didn't know that, and I was just like,
Did you tell
okay,
did
we'll
you tell them?
see. No, I didn't. I didn't bother. I didn't. Um, I probably wouldn't have been able. Whatever. I've been on most of the common medications, and they don't really work. And whatever they would have prescribed me would have almost certainly been one of the common medications, because I don't have insurance. And whatever and they knew that, and so they wanted to give me something that was fairly cheap because of that fact. But um, I wouldn't have been able to take whatever they gave me.
I understand. And when you leave the hospital, do they prescribe you to continue taking the medication that they put you on?
Yes, yes, they do. They they uh. This wasn't the case when I was a kid. I don't think. Usually, he went to the pharmacy, but when I was there, this time, they gave me the bottle. But I don't think that was the case when I was a kid. Well, obviously, I didn't handle that stuff because I was a kid, so I didn't really handle that stuff. That's not. I wasn't responsible for myself, but they gave me medication. Medication that I was taking. Then,
And I guess my next question is, what are the steps you think you can take yourself? Because you said that you have an interest in the topic, you have intimate experience when it comes to the Floridian mental health system. So, what is a path forward for you when it comes to mental health
um,
if the system is not working as intended?
the thing I'm doing right now is like I do much else is reading. Basically, that's basically what I do. It's what I do as much as I can, and and that's kind of it. I read studies, I read stuff, and most of it that I could find, at least for Florida. I can't speak to other. I wanted to focus specifically on Florida because obviously laws, uh, although the laws I'm pretty sure almost certainly pretty similar, there is obviously going to be differences from state to state, and even county to county. As I mentioned, two counties in Florida have stuff implemented that has reduced the number of Baker Acts in those areas that haven't been reduced in that haven't been made in other counties. This is a something that has to be done probably very local. This is something that has to be done pretty locally
I understand.
because of just how things are divided. And yeah, but I plan on going to college. I cannot do that right now. but I plan to. But in the meantime, I read.
And do you feel like doing the reading helps your own mental health in any degree?
Sure, I love the reading.
hmm So how does it affect your
Um,
mental health?
um, it gives me hope. I guess that's the best thing. It gives me hope.
Gives you hope?
That, yeah, yeah. I just really like it too. It's just something I'm interested in.
So understanding the issues allow you to break them down easier in your mind and feel like you can do more about it.
Yeah. Um, it helps me know whenever I have the ability to do more, what I could potentially do um, is, I guess, the big thing. Um, Knowing especially that this stuff is a local thing um, to varying degrees, a state level, but also county level. Um, and you could might be able to even break it down more. I don't think so, but you might be able to. But at least in America, those two things, knowing those two things, are kind of very important because this isn't something that I think you could probably make some changes nationally, but most of it to be effective would have to be localized. It would have to be. It's just kind of the nature of this kind of stuff. Yeah.
So you're thinking of advocating for political change locally around
Yeah.
these topics?
Yeah.
Can you tell me a bit about your plans surrounding this?
Um, because of certain things, I do not have a car, but and I can't really go much places unless someone takes me. Um, but once I do that, I plan on um looking into a lot of the political stuff a lot more,
Mm-hmm.
in what I can actually do. Even if it's just attending meetings and talking to people
Mm-hmm.
and explaining to people this kind of stuff. Even if it's just memorizing some facts and like I kind of just mentioned in this discussion, and sharing with people and sharing about um, the research and I guess the research for this kind of stuff and its progress.
And do you plan to do any talking with representatives, trying to push for any change actively?
Yeah, I'd like to do that. Yeah, I don't know if I'll be able to, but sure. Yeah,
All right.
I'd like to. That would, if I could, I would.
Is there anything that stands in your way?
Um, I'm just not sure. I'm just not sure if a representative would really talk to me. Like I guess depending on what you mean.
Mm-hmm.
I could obviously I could just email them, but like besides but anything beyond that, I'm not sure if I'd be able to get into that. But if I could, I would. I would definitely do it. I'd probably try to do it once I have more means available to me. But yeah, I, but if I almost certainly I can do it. I don't see why I wouldn't.
I understand. And in the meantime, I assume you still need some form of assistance.
Um, Kinda. It's complicated. Um,
So,
I do pretty much fine now on my own. Um, Besides what happened, which
yeah.
hasn't happened in a while. Um, I hadn't been Baker acted since I was 16, and I'm 19 now. So it was a fairly long time, and until then, things were going pretty well. I was handling myself pretty well. Um,
And that person that you've mentioned is no longer in your life.
no, um, I ended up getting in an argument into them after I got out of the facility, and I was like, I'm not dealing with this, and I kind of just decided to cut all contact with them again. And then after that, I realized I started to get better, just randomly. I was like, oh,
Randomly.
I know what the issue. I was like, oh, I know what the issue is.
And
Um,
that was a friendship, relative.
it was my father.
Oh, I understand.
Yeah.
Your father. And do you live with any of your parents right now?
Yes, currently. So I will hopefully be uh, moving out soon. That is the plan.
Is the plan proceeding apace to help
Yes.
you to?
Yes. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So I assume you
It should
are.
happen. It
Like,
should happen. By it should happen this year. It should happen this year.
you're looking for some occupation. Yeah.
Yes.
Can I ask what sort of an occupation are you looking to get?
Quite literally anything.
No.
Not really looking into something specific. I just want a job so I can have money right now. Because I don't have any really. So I'd like to have just any money. I don't kind of care. I
Whoever has the gold makes the rules.
Did somebody join us?
yes.
Who?
Yeah.
A person called Emperor Jaewon. I don't know who they are.
Mm,
I think I've seen them in Cathedral, but besides that, I don't
Hello.
know them.
Yes. No,
Okay.
I'm the
Yes. Would you like to talk about mental health as well?
Lucy. I'm the Snapchat
Sorry.
guy who shows up in your streams time to time.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Are you here to talk about mental health as well?
I talked to you about the Baker Act. Oh,
Sorry?
mental health. Oh, it said gaming, so I thought this was more of a casual voice chat. But if it's not, then like I can see myself out.
No, we're talking about mental health
Oh, okay.
on stream.
Well. Oh, am I on stream?
You are?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, well. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So what was the track of conversation before I dropped in, before I intruded upon this fine conversation?
Mental health system in Florida, how it treats people, how it detains people when there's a suspicion that someone might be a danger to themselves or others. Usually it would last for 72 hours, but it can last more. And it's not a very functional system as how it has been described to me right now.
Yeah, it's like Baker Act, right? I think Envy was talking about this. Like
Yes.
and they kind of talked about it with me in like the cathedral.
Mm-hmm.
From what I've gathered, it basically the problem with it is the fact that like it's sort of the people that evaluate whether or not like they are really a harm or have some sort of mental disorder aren't actually designated professionals. Like I think two of the three people or something like that like
Yes.
determine, okay, well this guy goes to prison, or this guy like must be detained. They're not professionals, and so this is very easily prone to abuse and perhaps even manipulation. Depending on how
Yes,
much
you
power.
actually reminded me of a great point. Yes, yes. The numbers of people that
That's
are
what I'm
actually
saying.
mental health professionals is like it's very low. Who end up Baker acting you because police can. The school district kind of can. I think they need a police officer involved, but they can call and they can get you Baker acted as well.
Yeah. No.
It's kind of easy.
Well,
It's
that's a problem too. But like I was talking more like once you like actually enact the thing and sign the paper, and right once you like get the paper signed, the people who actually look at the case aren't mental health professionals. They're not. They're just like either police or judges, from what I've like gathered. They're not mental health professionals. They're not trained in it whatsoever. I think maybe some of them are like later on like the line, but like again, if it's like more public figures like judges or whatever, that kind of makes them more prone to manipulation too, depending on how much power you have, right?
yeah.
And how much so that's why it's so problematic. I mean, you said it yourself. I believe you said it, and I'm not even sure if you're talking hyperbolics. You said it was unironically evil and came from the devil himself.
Yes,
I think
I
that was
was
your
not. No, I
yeah.
wasn't.
They're not hyperbolic.
Basically, everyone in Florida, sorry, I shouldn't say everyone. A lot of people in Florida don't really like the Baker
Mm.
Act. There's been something good. Number of Baker Acts have been going down since 2019. One of those years. It has been going down. It is still extremely high. It is way too high. It should still be low. It needs to be lower. It shouldn't be that high. There's nothing that justifies the numbers being that high.
How fake color
You
person.
brought up something about like 80% like school reduction or something. I don't think I fully understood that point. So do you need to clarify for the audience? Yeah, you
Yes,
brought that up.
in Palm Beach in Palm Beach School District. I have to look into it more. I have fucking been putting it off about what the actual stuff that was implemented after the ruling, but before the ruling was over, but before Palm Beach School District were found guilty, I guess. They had implemented policies, and they had reported the school district had reported a 80% reduction in Baker Acts. 80% of there's 80% less as before.
Well,
Which
isn't that a
is
good thing?
it's an insane number. Yes, yes, it's good that they did that. It's good that there was that much of a reduction. I mean, not that much of a reduction. It was good that it got reduced in that way, and that because they were doing things improperly, that things got reduced. But yes, it is good. That is good.
Oh, so it got reduced after they were like, either like charged or something. Like you said, they were like convicted or
Yes,
whatever.
this
Okay.
was during a case where I have to assume because they implemented policies, either someone higher up in the school district found stuff lacking, or they saw the way the case was going. They decided to implement policies beforehand, and so yeah, they did so. But
I
I don't know what the
Although,
policies were after the ruling because there was still going to be another set of changes.
do you think that it was genuine, or do you think it was kind of like their fudged reports? Because the school
Uh,
themselves gave the stats, right?
the eighty
The
percent number.
80% reduction. Yeah,
Um,
didn't the school themselves provide it?
it kind of doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
For you to claim an 80% reduction in Baker Acts to begin with is kind of insane and doesn't make the school district look good. So to me, it either means they were
Mm.
worse and they did and now they're doing better, or they're lying about it in some way, which means they're either still not doing better and they could do even better and they're still having issues, or or they were even worse than before and so they were giving a lower number, which if you are higher than 80%, that's insane. Like 80% already is kind of insane. 50% is insane, but 80% is it's baffling.
I see. I guess the need for that much of a reduction in the first place is the embarrassing part, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
That's the
It means
embarrassing part.
stuff. It means stuff was really bad. At least to me, that's what it indicates.
Yeah, I see. I was not aware of this act actually. And it doesn't really seem to be getting much mainstream media coverage. Doesn't seem to be getting
No,
much.
a lot of this stuff is local. A lot of this stuff is really local. You probably wouldn't see it unless you in Florida. It's just not something that gets much mainstream news coverage.
And where and what part of the US are you from, if it's okay to ask? Emperor
Oh,
Javon.
me? Well, I think like one can probably guess by my accent, but come from the what's it called? The East Coast?
The East Coast? What part of the East Coast?
Like California.
California. And have you had any experience with this sort of thing with mental health institutions?
Hmm. Well, California's, from what I've gathered, California's issue primarily comes from the fact that, like,
I've been
well,
corrected
of
to be
course,
from
there's
the
the
West
problem.
Coast rather than the East Coast. Are you okay with your directions of the world?
Wait, yeah, I think I got my directions mixed up again. That's really stupid of me. That's stupid. Um, yeah, I mix that up all the time. Like, that's just a bad habit of mine. Uh, Concerning mental health, well, there has been, I think the issue I think I face a lot in California, at least from this is only from my very limited experience in this area, is that like from the schools I've went to, or at least a school I went to, we did the faculty try to get their kids to like try to get the kids to like really participate and partake in mental health or like mental health care programs. And like we also have like this like whole billboard up on school which has like people write nice notes, right? And people post them on there to I guess like kind of give people motivation and stuff, right? People think it's like, oh, I love you, you're so great, you're so pretty, that kind of that stuff like that, positive stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There is that. And there's also like I think we recently got like a official our very own counselor as well. That was a thing
You
we
still
started to
attend
do.
school, I take it?
Uh, Almost done. Like it's my last year.
Of what school?
Uh, I'm not gonna name it, but
No,
because
no,
it's
no.
not very
I mean,
relevant.
which level of education?
Which level of education?
Yes.
Not. I mean, you could probably guess, but like I am actually in senior year.
Okay. High school?
Yeah, senior year. Yeah, high school. Last year.
Mm-hmm.
I've just finished my application, so there's that. Um, so I suppose like I guess my perspective can be interesting from like a from a more uh someone who's down the age like list in terms of that because child's mental health is important too. Um, I think the primary issue, at least within my area, is the fact that a lot of kids just don't they don't pursue it. They are either too shy or they're too how do I say this like their self-esteem is too low. Where there's just a general cynicism towards like any type of like big institution. And as a result, like there's this very like cynical attitude that sort of comes. Oh, they don't care anyway. Like they're not gonna help me anyway. It's not gonna help me. It's all gonna be faulty, right? Or like
Mm-hmm.
like false, or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like there is that like very cynical attitude, at least from some of the people that I've interacted with. So there is that. And as a result, though, like this sort of manifests itself into like very unhealthy behaviors online, actually.
Mm-hmm. And have you participated in any of these programs?
Um, I have. Um,
Uh,
Actually, I think my school
is it
assigned me to
okay
a
to ask you how old you are?
how well I am.
Yeah.
I'm doing much better now, but I
How
still have
old you
like
are?
some. How old?
Yeah.
I mean, like I'm in last year, s- senior year, so I don't think like that's. I think you can kind of guess.
18,
Uh,
19?
I'm senior year. Yeah, around that range.
Okay.
I would say around that range. But with that in mind, so yeah, like I said, it manifests to very unhealthy behaviors online. And honestly, one could say that this is an example of one too, if you're kind of being reductionist. But it's like I think there has been instances where some of my friends, they what they do is that they kind of like go like the popular shooter Valorant,
Mm-hmm.
the popular tactic shooter game,
Yes.
multiplayer. Yeah, Valorant, right? Some of my friends or some of the people near me, they have actually gone on there and tried to like how do I say this in the most in a way that's most characteristic. E-dating, like trying to like find like either girls or guys online, and just try to get with them or something like that. And it leads to some very awkward interactions and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets like pretty embarrassing. So it's like it's that type. That's like sort of the environment that I'm in. Just a very low lack of self-esteem and very cynical towards like anyone who even offers mental health, probably due to internalized like self-hatred. A lot of that's very common. And as a result, and also as a result, they exhibit a lot of antisocial behaviors. Um, I think I have a bit less of that. I've It's a bit less, but like based on what I've seen, even within the circumstances, seems to be more mild. I can't imagine how much worse it'll be for like other high schools or high schools that are like that have less safety nets or even not as like tight knit of a community. Because I would say I was actually blessed with a decent community.
I understand. So you have not had any um, experience with the institutions of mental health, like envy.
Not in envy's way, no. But I have seen school counselors, but that's about as far as it went.
Mm-hmm. And have you taken part in any of school organized programs when it comes to mental health?
I have several friends who did. Like I think I have a friend who was a co-founder of our school's mental health club. So I had several friends who do, and then several of my other friends do attend it, which is good, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really sure how the inner workings go because like I've never really asked, but I suppose I could ask them to see like how they like conduct things. Oh yeah, yeah. There's also like big events, I believe. I think there was a whole thing that the mental health club did or some associate where they actually like had like this big table out in the pavilion, right? And they had like people just come in and like do activities there.
Yes.
I think it was a way to like foster those social connections and like try to like cultivate those important like relationships that are key to you know getting someone through mental health, right? Like I see it's that trying to establish those social safety nets, if that's the right term to use. uh so in that sense, like that's kind of the extent of it. But keep in mind this is a very narrow perspective that I'm offering here,
Yes.
so there's that.
Uh,
As for other stuff, I don't feel qualified to talk about.
I understand.
I'm not qualified.
Uh, is there anything else that any of you would like to talk about or add or
Let me think. I might have more stuff. Um,
yes?
okay, I guess I'm kind of a basic thing. Um, gonna be very simple. It's not gonna be a very thing because obviously this stuff has to be localized. And I could only really speak from my area, which wouldn't help most people since I doubt most people live in my area specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they all live in the U.S. is a very big place. Um, uh, Focusing from everything I've seen, it seems, I guess, kind of like the universal thing is focusing on in community programs rather than necessarily forms of institutionalization help a lot. Community programs obviously will just help generally. It's the thing you want to go for. You don't really need to build more hospitals as if we want to like get this stuff down, we need more community programs to help people. That will obviously vary depending on your area. But I brought up the kind of the one thing that I guess probably could kind of be considered that, which is the mobile crisis care things, where they can potentially prevent things like Baker X to a large degree. And so that's a big thing.
Have a
Mobile community X. Can you clarify what that is? Sorry,
Um, yeah. Basically, if
I'm
you are in
stupid.
crisis, I assume this would be if you haven't harmed yourself or someone else yet. if you were like in the process going through something, people people will come out to you and kind of just try to de-escalate things. I believe they also give you resources, what you might be able to do, what you might be able to go to. They talk to you for a little bit about potentially what you can do, and this seems, from what I read, to have helped quite a bit. If I remember the numbers, it was a
So are these
70%
like
reduction in the Baker Acts in the 2 counties that it was implemented in.
um, are
Large
these
amount.
people are these like helpers, quote unquote, like community helpers? Are they like institutionalized, or are they
They
like
are.
part of a structure, or are
I'm
they just
I'm pretty sure they're trained professionals. They are probably, I would
okay?
probably assume, usually social workers is what I would probably assume. Um, is social workers I think social workers would probably be social workers. I don't know specifics of the program. I was just reading stuff related to Baker X, and I came across that.
I see. Well, speaking of Baker X, by the way, what are some common like defenses for the Baker X or for the Baker Act that you've actually heard? What are some like
Um,
defenses?
you don't get one most of the time. You can just be dropped off at a facility. Um, you can literally
No,
just
no,
be
I
dropped
meant
off
like
at a
defenses as
facility.
in like more defenses in the sense of like people
Oh,
like
um,
yeah, yeah, so
I haven't
guarding
heard
ones.
any. I haven't heard any. Um, at least not for the Baker Act. I've heard defenses for mental health institutionalization generally, but um,
Mm.
not for the Baker Act.
Yeah, most of the time they don't even know that it like exists, right? Some people.
No. Despite it being such a common thing in Florida, unless you have people around you affected by it, I don't think, or you've seen news about it, I don't think most people know what the Baker Act is. I don't
Mm.
think so. Um,
I don't know, Lucy. What are your thoughts on this?
On this specific act or the broader?
Well,
Uh,
well, this specific act and like I guess some of the broader stuff too.
I feel like this sort of thing would need to be one not tied to any sort of insurance or any sort of monetary scheme like the way it works in Poland, and two, the stay should be at least 2 to 3 weeks in order to be able to properly assign a psychologist, psychiatrist, properly work with medication,
Mm.
with
Mm. So, oh, okay, I see. So, do you think that the duration of time for the should just be longer or something like that?
I feel like it depends on how it's all organized. I'm
I see.
speaking based on my own experience experience with mental health facilities in Poland, that is, where it's not really tied to any sort of insurance or pay scheme. It's completely free,
I see.
including the medication that is prescribed during the stay.
uh, yes, it's actually a pretty good point. I believe in Florida, um, all the facility, I shouldn't say all. Most of the facilities are private. I think most of them are run by private companies. I don't think they are. I assume they probably get some government funding. I would have to assume. I don't know that, but I would assume that. But I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure they're private and they're run by healthcare companies. Um, because that seems to be what the case is in Florida. From my experience.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever been to a place that I'm pretty sure is government owned or anything, like an actual government facility.
I see. Well, This is a fantastic conversation. Well, this is an interesting conversation, at least on Lucy and Envy, at least for me. I'm not sure if it was for any of you, of course. And I'll see myself out and let you two get on with it.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right. But
Thank
have a
you.
good afternoon, everyone.
You too.
I will. Yes.
All right, Lucy. Did you have any more questions for me, or
Yes. Maybe a bit about. Um, is there anything that you'd like to improve in your immediate situation?
um, kind of really simple stuff. I'm planning on getting my GED soon. Um, because of being Baker acted so much, I kind of just ended up dropping out of high school because I didn't attend regularly enough to. I didn't attend a lot because of being Baker acted, and I ended up dropping out of high school. I probably would have passed. I didn't get Baker acted, but because I did,
I understand.
I fell really far behind, and so I plan on getting my GED soon, and that is the big thing. That's the big thing.
I understand. All right. Okay.
All right.
Is there anything else that you'd like to tell me, or
Um, no, I think that's basically the uh um I have I guess opinions, but I don't want to share. I don't really care to share them. I care more to share about stuff that you can kind of like you can literally just look into. You can just see.
yes?
It's kind of just um but yeah. Um besides that, no, I don't.
Okay.
Well, uh if that's all you have for me,
Yes.
I will go and I will let you cover the
I
uh, uh,
will.
uh, Zelensky Friedman interview.
I will try. Yes. I will try to do that
Okay.
now.
Well, good luck with that.
Thank you.
Really nice chatting with you. I hope you had a.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed. I guess is the wrong word, but appreciated this.
Thank you.
It was really nice. It was really lovely chatting with you. Please have a nice day.
Bye bye. Well, I I'm sorry. So how was that? It was yeah. Okay. I'll I guess we can turn this off now. Thank you for the $5 by Calico Parker for the giggles. I guess I have I have I've had a plan to get a guest today to go over the interview, but unfortunately the guest that I've had in mind had a food poisoning problem. I I guess I'll just have to get through it on my own. So I suppose we will I guess we'll get to it. I when one moment. Let me get the link to it. We will go for a bit of it, and I will give you thoughts on specific fragments of it. Okay? Is that a plan? Okay. Uh, what's going on?
This one's for the
No, I don't want to watch this. Is anybody still here? Oh, what? I'm still here. Okay, let's try this. I okay. Let's see the more the the parts I wanted to talk about are the language part. I, hello. Hi. Okay, let's listen to the part about the language and then we can talk about it a little bit. Okay. Oh, it's muted. I'm sorry. Okay. Uh, yes. Okay. I let's listen to the language part briefly. Okay. I,
will be most effective and impactful if we speak in Russian.
I speak Russian perfectly, of course, and I understand everything you are talking about. However, I can't respond in Russian the entire interview. It's because this is how it is today. I am not making anything up. You can see it all for yourself. You can feel and hear it. Today, there were 73 missile attacks against us, and people were killed. There were over 100 drones today, and this is a daily occurrence. The people who attack us, they speak Russian. They attack people who were only recently told that this was actually in defense of Russian-speaking people. And this is why I respect neither the leader or director of today's Russia, nor the people. That's it. And I don't think that you can just pretend that nothing's happening and give Putin a pass once again for saying that we are one people, that we speak one language, etc. They speak the language of weapons. That is a fact. And we are peaceful people who want to protect themselves and defend their freedom and their human choice. You know, at the beginning of the war, I addressed Russians in Russian. Zero effect. They're mute. They do not listen. They did not listen. Some are afraid. Some have other issues. They have different reasons. It's like when a person is drowning.
Basically, what is being said here is mirrors pretty much my opinions on the matter. Russia is waging a genocidal war against Ukraine. Russia is trying to erase the language. Russia is trying to kill the people of Ukraine. So I personally thought that wanting to have this interview in Russian was an extremely bad idea. I thought it was disregarding the traumatic experiences of the Ukrainian people themselves. I thought it was adding weight to the language that is being actively used as a weapon against not just Ukraine but also other countries such as Georgia, such as Moldova, such as any countries that has. I'm sorry. I yes. Apologies. I'll be right back. Okay. I'll be right back. Apologies. I'll be right back. Hello, thank you very much. How how is everybody? I uh, it's I'm feeling a bit low on energy today. I'm sorry. I apologize. It's a bit I I'm it's a pretty good interview. As in it's okay. Uh Zelensky did very well in this interview, and starting with saying explaining why, as a head of a country that has been attacked by Russia, a country that is waging a genocidal war against it, why it's not appropriate for him to conduct the entire interview in Russian. And I was very happy with his answer, and I, even if he said that he will compromise by giving some responses in Russian if there's a need for clarification. And he also did say that Lex Friedman's Russian is not as good as he thinks, that it's not as very good. During this interview, he says that his Russian is not very good. And of course, I found this very interesting. This interview touches upon many different things. Lex Friedman strikes me as a person that has a clear pro-Russian bias, a person that praises Putin at every opportunity as this rational, good, hard-working person that simply loves his people, that simply wants what's best for Russia. And throughout this interview, he seems to be focusing on things like, well, how can you meet Russia halfway? What are the security guarantees that you can give for Russia? Don't you think that that Vladimir Putin is just a person that loves Russia and the people? Is there a possibility that Ukraine will forgive Russia? Questions like that. And I feel like Zelensky has done a very good job navigating these questions, as well as giving pushback when complete nonsense was presented to him. He did a very good job representing Ukrainian people overall in this interview. And I guess what I would like to do now is to go through a couple of moments that I felt were very good. I'd like to go through some fragments of the interview, maybe talk about it a bit, give my thoughts, give my opinions, and then Loved them so much he sent 800,000 to die in Ukraine, and now so many are freezing because their infrastructures are falling apart. Russia has made certain for Ukrainian people to not have electricity during this trying winter time, and yes, let's let's listen to a few fragments and then we can. Language. I think there's no need to listen to the language part too long. I think I've explained it at least to some degree. I feel like it's highly disrespectful, the request. What they have settled on is to conduct the interview in three languages: English, Ukrainian, and Russian. You have different audio tracks. You have English original, Ukrainian, English Great Britain, as well as Russian tracks. It's a new option that has been added to YouTube, being able to add different voice tracks to videos. An option that will definitely come in handy in the future. And I feel like this was an acceptable compromise, and we can move on and talk about the rest of the interview. During the discussion about World War II, Lex Fridman says that the world had that the claims that World War II or the war has started in 1941 and draws a parallel to 2022, trying to draw a comparison between two world-shaking events: the invasion of the USSR in 1941, which Lex Fridman claims to be the start of the war, as well as the Russian invasion of Ukraine. I feel like this is, as much as I can understand the purpose of this comparison, I feel like this is coming from a Russian chauvinistic point of view. I feel like Russia has a myth of the great patriotic war that has started in 1941. It does not acknowledge anything before that. It does not acknowledge anything that has happened in 1939. It does not especially acknowledge the Ribbentrop-Molotov Pact, the fact that the USSR and Germany have divided Poland and wider spheres of influence among themselves at the beginning of World War II. It does not acknowledge USSR's further cooperation with the Nazi regime when it comes to the exchanging of resources, the exchanging of people, mutual agreement on squashing any type of rebellion against the other side. That is something that Russia completely ignores in its historiography and squarely puts the beginning of the war in 1941 when Nazi Germany turned on the USSR and decided to invade it. I feel like even though perhaps Lex Friedman was trying to make a certain point when it comes to this characterization of the war, but it gets lost, in my opinion. It gets lost because what immediately gets my attention is the Russian chauvinism at the forefront of this argument of when the war actually started. I guess we can listen to some of it. I feel like it's a bit interesting.
Wounds. Torture back then.
22nd at 4 o'clock. Kiev
There we
was
go.
bombed. For this song from my youth.
Operation Barbarossa, which, by the way, the invasion of Poland in 1939 also had its own operation name. I'm not sure if any of you know it. I'm not sure if any of you would be able to write it without looking it up. What was the invasion of Poland called in 1939? Operation Barbarossa was the name of the invasion of the USSR. So would you be able to tell me what the name of the invasion of Poland was? Would you be able to tell me if I asked you? I am willing to bet that the majority of people would simply not know the name of the Fallweis. You were close enough, Malaki. It was called Fallweis.
On June 22nd at 4 o'clock, Kiev was bombed and the war began.
The war began. You will notice the language. The war began. As if there was no war before. There was no war before that. The war began in 1941.
I always wondered how it would feel to live in a moment when everything changed.
Because before then, there was no change at all. There was no ongoing Holocaust before then. The world has certainly not changed for many people, least of all for the Jewish people.
The path of humanity completely shifts in a single moment, just like that. What do you think? What do you think about that moment in 1941? Now, after the 2022 invasion, how do you perceive the Second World War after you have witnessed all of it?
Well, firstly, the war actually started earlier. It started here in Ukraine. Kiev was bombed, as you quoted. But the war had already begun before that. And I think I perceived it as a start of the full-scale invasion. Well, I think it's hard. It's hard to understand why nobody wants to listen, look at, and analyze history. War, the rise of fascism and Nazism, the emergence of Hitler, Goebbels, and their entire team. At the time, this wasn't just about one party or even one country. It was essentially a wave of hatred, a wave of one race above the rest. They were, in fact, constructing and ultimately implemented a theory around this idea, later seizing Europe. They created a theory of one nation, one race, one world. Their world. Of course, this idea is absolutely senseless, but it has become radicalized over the years and even gained support. A vision of one world. And in principle, the so-called Russian world The ideology Putin promotes and imposes, it wasn't originally like that. He was a different person back then, or maybe he was always like this, but
I believe he was always like this. I believe he, from the very beginning, he has made moves to eliminate freedoms in Russia and to move forward to what we're seeing now. I do not believe that he was a different man in the past and has radically changed to now.
his rhetoric was different. At the beginning, remember, he talked
Rhetoric and how the person is in reality are two different things. You are not to be judged by your rhetoric, you are to be judged by your actions.
about the EU and even about Russia's future being tied to NATO. There were even talks of joining the European Union, NATO. He spoke about shared values with the West. That's how it all sounded back then. And we must also look at Hitler, who was seriously, before the radical idea of taking over the whole world, he actually made certain steps, and everyone believed he was helping the economy. And to be fair, he did take some steps in that direction. But he was a terrifying person.
He did take steps when it comes to economy, but that economy was unsustainable and could only not collapse if Germany expanded, conquered. That is why Germany basically, among other things, through its economy, was forced to go to war sooner or later or face economical collapse.
None of those actions justify him, nor do they excuse his actions. And that's why we cannot look at the Second World War as if it started in 1939. It didn't begin in 1941 either. We need to draw conclusions. When did it start? With the weaknesses of the world. The division of European states, the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. All of this happened before 1941. People who were more informed, those who dug deeper, whether they were politicians or not, whether they were from different walks of life, including business, which was different back then, were speaking about all of this. Hitler won't stop. There'll be a world war. Hitler will destroy nations. Nations. And that's what happened. Someone looked the other way. What I told you about. Europe was sinking then.
Interestingly enough, I believe that in 1939, the Polish leader Józef Piłsudski has proposed a preemptive strike of Nazi Germany because he figured that Germany was basically dangerous. There was a plan, but it was, let's just say that he was not allowed. Let me see. I cannot find. Did Piłsudski attempt to initiate a preventative war in 1993? However much the policy of Poland may have been lacking in wisdom between 1919 and 1933, it must be admitted that she was not only the first to sound the tocsin of alarm on the advent of Adolf Hitler to power, but also to propose effective, if drastic, methods for nipping this new menace in the bud. In March 1933, Piłsudski warned M. Daladier that German rearmament was progressing too fast. The Marshal, it is said, proposed that direct action should be taken to crush the Hitler regime by means of a preventative war by France, Britain, and Poland, and even offered to provide the necessary incident in the Westerplatte. Daladier at first demurred and then refused so radical a solution of the problem. A month later, Piłsudski again repeated his offer and supported his contention by an added memoir. This time Daladier did not sting any kind of reply at all. Instead, to Piłsudski, in the Bellevue Palace at Warsaw, there came rumors and reports of a four-power pact. Once convinced that far from taking direct action to destroy the menace of National Socialism, France and Britain were actually negotiating secretly with Germany and Italy for an understanding at the expense of Poland, the Marshal did not hesitate to take his own measures. He flung himself into the vanguard of the race for appeasement and won by a short head, at the same time nullifying the immediate efforts of his competitors. So yes. There you go. This is a theory that has been floating around, that Poland in 1933 planned to end Hitler's threat preemptively and decisively.
Gave you an example of it. But the whole world looked the other way and didn't pay attention and said, no, we can negotiate with him. I'm telling you, he is okay. We can negotiate with him. He's just more right-leaning. Or it does not matter what they said. He's just very pro-nationalist. This is all nonsense. And this is not the first time. And Hitler isn't the first such case in history. We're dealing with a person who is allowed to stick to this desire to destroy. He was consumed by it and enjoying it. And what happened to Hitler? Now, what about Putin? This invasion was also at 4 in the morning. Around 4 in the morning, there were missile strikes on Ukraine. This is the same. I believe that intentions are also the same, but more on that later. By the way, you tell me if this is too long, you can stop me.
Never long enough. It's beautiful.
Okay, so it happened here around 4 in the morning. Before this, I must honestly say, everyone said something, predicted something, etc. But I asked only for one thing, primarily from the United States. If you are sure, if you have the evidence, if you talk to him and he tells you that there'll be an...
So basically, he talks here about asking for support, asking for weapons, asking for security guarantees and for sanctions against Russia, and talks about how he has not received those things, and by extension Ukraine has not received these things. And I will say that it is true that not only at the beginning during these warning signs has Ukraine not received what it needed, but I will have to extend this point by saying that Ukraine has not really received adequate aid throughout the whole invasion. I believe that Zelensky says at some point of the interview that the US has passed aid packages amounting to $170 billion and has not received or has only received about half of that amount. And I believe that it speaks to, assuming this figure is true, assuming that this statement is true, it speaks to just the difference between commitments, the difference between statements, the difference between legislation, and the difference between real life impacts and real life aid to Ukraine, real life fulfilling of those commitments. I apologies. Let me see. Let me just make sure. I think I'm I'm not I'm sorry. I'm not very well today. I think I will continue this tomorrow. I'm sorry. I was planning to cover this today. I watched it beforehand. I haven't watched it in its entirety. I just don't feel very well. Might have to continue this tomorrow. I'll see you and bye, I guess. Goodbye. Good night.